All right, guys, your buddy Otaku Phil here. So somebody had asked me about my flight training and more specifically about financing and getting into my whole flight training thing. So when it comes to flight training and paying for flight training, you've got four ways of paying for your flight training. And I like to break it down into two categories. Um, so the first category is, are you training for personal gain? Meaning you just want to get your private pilot's license, you just want to do it for fun, and that's all you're trying to do. And then the other one is, are you trying to be a commercial pilot? Are you trying to go all the way and get to commercial pilot, and you're trying to pursue this for a career? The main difference is if you are doing it for personal, then I wouldn't recommend, getting yourself into a bunch of debt and then having to pay it back. Where if you're doing it for professional use, then it makes sense. If you look at it like a college degree, you're gonna be spending as much as a college degree, and when all said and done, you're gonna be putting yourself in a situation where you can be making money and making that money back and paying off your debts and all that stuff. So the first two ones are if you're doing it personally. So if you just want to get your private pilot's license, you just want to fly, you just find it interesting and fun, you want to be able to fly somewhere with your family, but you're not going to work as a commercial pilot, and you don't want to do all the extra type ratings, and you don't want to do all the extra endorsements or whatever. Then you got two choices. The first choice is a personal loan. So a personal loan is, just a loan from your bank or whatever, and you can get them at any bank. If you're just doing your private pilots, you can be expected to pay anywhere from as little as 8,000 to as high as 14,000, depending on how many hours you put in, how much you study, because it really comes down to the hours that you put in, your skill, and being able to demonstrate that skill. The second choice for if you're doing it for personal reasons is a savings plan. So a lot of training schools actually have savings plans where instead of coming in and paying a lump sum or getting a loan, you come in and you pay little by little until you can afford the lessons. You come in, you put in $200, you put in two here, 200 there. That'll start covering you for your lessons. And when you're ready to take your lessons, you start tapping into it and they just start deducting from that savings plan, because you don't, if you're doing it for personal reasons, you take your time. It's not something that, you go in, you do it for a week and you get your license. No, it's something you go in, you do it once a week, you do it once every 2 weeks, you get some hours in, you practice, you study, then you go take your test. The whole process may take you anywhere from 3 to 10 months. It really depends on your time, your money, your budget. You don't have to be dumping a large sum into it once. That's another thing. There are a lot of training schools that'll tell you that, oh, our training course is this much money. Never go to a school that gives you a flat rate. Each school, if you go to a real school that is not going to waste your time, not going to waste your money, they will tell you this is the typical range that our students pay for, but it comes down to you. If you put in those hours, if you train, this, you might be able to get your license in the minimum 40 hours, where, I've had plenty of schools where they were like, if our typical student is anywhere from 40 to 65 hours of training before they're comfortable and and are proficient enough to pass the exam. So it really comes down to you. You have to get the minimum 40 hours in order to take the exam, but are you going to do those 40 hours and go straight for the exam? That's up to you. So then the second option is if you want to go career or you're trying to go commercial. Now, commercial is a lot of money. Commercial can easily take you at the low end 70,000, at the high end up to $100,000. So with these kind of loans and these types of financing, you should be looking at more college or student loan type federal loans. Because flight training isn't classified as your typical education pass until you get past private. then the main thing about these kind of loans is they're high interest loans, so you have two types of loans. You have your typical student loans like the Sallie Mae and I think the Wells Fargo or something like that, or West, yeah. And then you've got the private, or not so much private, or I should just say the other financial loans that are non federally backed loans. Like I have the loan that I have is through flight or pilotfinancing.com. They sponsor a lot of the Cessna programs, the Cessna school programs. And then you have, the big schools like ATP and all that stuff. They use, Sallie Mae and I think Wells Fargo or something like that. And they have different rates. So if you go through the big schools, you're going to pay more, but they are more 9 to 5s. You go every day, you train, you get a big student loan that's probably going to be about 80 grand. And you got to pay that back once you finish your complete commercial program. So with a complete commercial program, it should cost you, anywhere as little as 70 something grand and as high as 90 grand. And typically those big companies, like Sallie Mae, I think they charge anywhere from, I think 8 to, they can be anywhere from 8 to 19%. Yeah, so be aware. It's an expensive deal, but it's like a college loan. You don't start paying it back until a certain amount of time after you've graduated and finished your commercial. They give you enough time to seek work and start working and making that money back. It's just like a student loan. But the program I'm going through, the pilotfinancing.org or pilotfinancing.com, they do more smaller and they do it step by step. So they won't give you a lump sum. What they do is they build the school bills them and they give you money incrementally. So the program I got starts off with private pilot, and they finance you up to $13,500 for just your private pilot, and it has like I believe it's like a 9% APR. It's like bad car loan type deal, but after I think it's like 36 months. I forget if it was like 36 months or after a certain number of payments that are paid on time, if you finish your basic pilot, your private pilot, and you decide to go to the ratings, they will automatically roll you over to those next programs. So you don't have to reapply and be like, okay, I got my private pilot. Now I want to go into, IFR or multi-engine and then try to go to commercial and I need to reapply. You don't have to reapply. Once you get your private pilot and you've been paying off your private pilot for a bit, they automatically roll you over. But the one with this one is, it's just like a regular credit card where you have to pay it every month from the date you start. So, but they bill you by your lesson. So if you only use it, two or three times a month, you've racked up about $600. Then you're only paying maybe like $200 a month, until you paid off your full amount that was used. So they cleared me for $13,500, but my school only says that they typically bill up to around $10,000 for their average student. But again, it's by lesson. These are just like they don't do lump sums. It's just every lesson they charge them, and the charge gets credited, and I have to pay that credit. So that's how I do it. Or that's what I'm doing, is that. And that's pilotfinancing.com. They're pretty easy. The thing about the big schools like ATP, they typically, look for students or young people with parents that are co-signers and stuff like that. And again, you don't pay it up front. You pay it once you're done with your school. But the program that I have, it's more for working individuals who want to pay on a regular while they're going along, but want to pay lower. So, with my program, you got to turn in proofs of income, pay stubs, previous year tax returns and stuff like that, where, Sallie Mae and those other ones, they just look at, your credit and, some basic stuff. They don't ask you for all that other stuff because, it's considered like a student loan type thing. So that's how you finance your pilot deal. So think about if you're doing it for fun or if you're trying to go all the way commercial. If you're trying to go all the way commercial, you got good credit, or you got a good co-signer, and you can go through ATP. ATP is expensive, but there are a lot of benefits for going through a program like ATP. It's a 9 to 5. You're there every day training. You're going to get in and out faster. You're going to get your ratings, you're going to get your private, you're going to get to commercial way faster than somebody like me who's financing it lesson by lesson and, working full time and then trying to get on my off days hours in to go fly. For me, it might take me, 4 or 5 months to get my private, because I'm only doing it like once a week for just a few hours versus ATP where you can get your private in just like 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks of just flying, every day. So think about how you want to do it. And again, if you're just doing it for fun, don't waste your time trying to go for those big companies. Just do the savings plan. Put in money until you can afford to take all those lessons, and then just start. It's going to be something that you're doing for fun, so it doesn't make sense for you to be paying, a huge APR on, basically getting a license to just fly a plane for leisure. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions, just let me know. I'll put a link to the pilotfinancing.com, and the pilot financing process is pretty simple. You basically file your paperwork. You can go online and fill out the application online. Once they've reviewed your stuff and you've submitted your taxes and your payroll and all that stuff, they send you a conditional offer letter. You take that to the school of your choice, and the school will fill out paperwork and submit their information to the pilot financing. And then when it's all said and done, they send a card to the school. And every time you take a lesson, that card is billed and they send you an invoice. So, that's the process. It typically takes, so it took me maybe about 3 weeks. Yeah, about 3 weeks to get processed for all of my pilotfinancing.com stuff. So just be aware of that. And again, like I said, they have a pretty high APR. They've got I think they're I can't remember if it was 9 or they have I think it's like a 9% APR. It's a pretty high APR. So just be aware of that. Yeah. So yeah, guys, if you're interested in flying, it's a pretty fun thing to do, if you're worried that you might be afraid, that it seems dangerous, you know what? It's safer than driving a car down the road, and once you get past, dealing with a little bit of turbulence and a drop here or there, it really just becomes like, riding a motorcycle every day or driving your car every day. You just get used to it and it's just day in, day out. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Keep sending me questions. I enjoy making these videos, and I'll try to fill you in on what's going on with me, what's going on with the Beetle, what's going on with the company. And I'll talk to you guys later, yeah?